Another bombing aimed at the Israelis in the heart of London as fears of new terrorism spread around the world. Tanks of water, the best hope for Rwanda refugees, but the crisis rages on. And a controversial custody ruling, a student mother loses a child.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. The terrible price of making peace as Israel negotiates an end to the long-running state of war with its Arab neighbors. Suddenly, it is once again the target of terrorists in far-off places. Last week, a Jewish cultural center in Argentina. Today, a car bomb exploded outside the Israeli embassy in London. We have two reports tonight on the bombing and the likely suspects. NBC's Rick Davis begins in London.
The bomb was in a car, now a hunk of twisted and charred metal. Israeli embassy windows were ripped out, floors collapsed inside. 14 people were taken to local hospitals, one severely injured. Some embassy workers were in shock, others described the moment of impact.
I was on the telephone and suddenly there was an enormous bang and my ceiling just completely came down.
Right afterwards we evacuated the people from the embassy to Hyde Park and we sent the people to their homes.
The power of the explosion reached Kensington High Street around the corner from the embassy.
Glass blew out, dust appeared, smoke rose, and people fled their offices immediately.
Frightening. Thank God I'm alive.
Scotland Yard says a policeman and Israeli security officer were near the suspiciously parked car.
And were checking it out when it exploded.
They are among the injured. A woman said to look Middle Eastern fled from the car just before the explosion.
Given the appearance of the woman and given the location, the Israeli embassy, this is seems to be a return of Middle East terrorism to the streets of London.
Terrorism experts say violence was predictable. Getting into this country is easy, and terrorists blend into the big Middle Eastern community.
Britain has become a large center for Islamic fundamentalists from everywhere. And there is therefore no shortage of volunteers for either religious glory, for martyrdom, or for money.
Embassy officials say last week they asked for tougher parking restrictions in this area. Tonight, police say security will be increased. Those tougher parking restrictions, more police, and more security cameras along Embassy Row. Rick Davis, NBC News, London.
This is Ed Rabel at the Pentagon. Once again, Hezbollah, radical Shiite Muslims based in Lebanon and backed by Iran, are getting the blame.
No doubt in my mind that we face a wave of extreme Islamic radical terrorist movements in the Arab Muslim countries.
Today, it was London, the target, the Israeli embassy. Just last week, it was Buenos Aires, a Jewish center, at least 96 dead in that blast alone. Also last week, Panama, a commuter plane exploded in midair, killing 21, including 12 who were Jewish. And last month, officials in Thailand arrested this Iranian for attempting to drive a truck bomb into the Israeli embassy. U.S. counterterrorism officials tell NBC News they believe Hezbollah is responsible for the current wave of terror, and they're on increased alert for possible bombings here at home.
I expect that we're going to have terrorism here coming out of our ears.
In fact, State Department documents issued earlier this year say for the first time that Hezbollah has established active terrorist cells in North America. Also known as Islamic Jihad, the terrorist group claimed responsibility for the 1992 bombing of the Israeli embassy in Buenos Aires, killing 29 people. But it's also known to have been involved in the 1983 bombing of the U.S. Marine barracks in Beirut, the hijacking of TWA Flight 847 in 1985, the kidnapping of most Western hostages in Lebanon. What makes the group extremely dangerous, terrorism experts tell NBC News, is the almost unlimited funding and support from Iran.
And its rhetoric is wholly anti-Western, anti-democratic, and anti-peace.
And tonight, everywhere in the world, security agencies are on red alert for possible terrorist attacks. For their part, Israeli officials say they will take their vengeance when the time is right. Ed Rabel, NBC News, the Pentagon.
Israeli Prime Minister Rabin has been in Washington this week signing and celebrating the new peace agreement with King Hussein of Jordan. And today at a joint news conference with President Clinton, all three condemned the terrorist attacks.
It's an all-out war waged by these elements against the possibility of the solution of the Arab-Israeli conflict in all its parts.
I did discuss the terrorism issue with President Assad in Geneva. I have continued to press with our friends and neighbors, our allies, the importance of standing up against nations which support terrorism. Trying to stem the expansion of terrorism is a major objective of the United States.
Nothing irritates me more or is more painful to me than to witness and see acts and attitudes attributed to Islam that have nothing to do with Islam, my faith, and my religion.
Now to Central Africa, to Zaire, where an international SOS has drawn rescuers from around the world, where the people, however, continue to die faster than mass graves can be prepared. As NBC's Rahima Ellis tells us tonight, clean water is the key.
At Goma's airport today, the number of flights reached an all-time high. 45 planes landed, more than double the number just 3 days ago, but still only half of what's needed. Today's airlift carried tents, food, and medical supplies, and one plane carried Fire Chief Jack Horner. He saw the refugee horror on television and wanted to come to help.
Yes, we can help these people. We're going to give them water.
Through the windshield of his fire truck that usually rides the streets of Calaveras, California, he saw refugees cluttering the streets of Goma, walking in search of water. So far, 20,000 refugees have died, most of them from cholera, a disease that spreads in dirty water. Medical researchers have now found the antibiotics used to treat the strain of cholera the refugees have are not effective. So the proper medicines will soon be airlifted from warehouses in the U.S. and other countries. The Mountain Fire Rescue Company brought in equipment to purify contaminated lake water to stop the cholera from spreading.
We're from California, and California has its share of disasters all the time, and people get used to helping one another, and that's what we're doing here.
The 4 firefighters teamed up with dozens of American soldiers to filter the water from polluted Lake Kivu. The first order of business was setting up with water pumps, hydrants, and hoses. The U.S. Army water purification system will clean 1,200 gallons an hour, but the fire crew's equipment will clean 5 times that amount. The Mountain Fire Rescue equipment will pump out more than 3,000 gallons of purified water per hour. That's enough for more than 14,000 refugees each day. There are people who've been desperate without it. But 22-year-old Derek Brune wasn't prepared for the grim reality.
Even from, my wildest nightmares, I couldn't imagine living like this, and I really feel for the people who do have to live like this. It's rough.
Just a few yards away from where the firemen struggled to set up the water pumps, refugees crowded around a muddy faucet, still filling their containers with contaminated water. This woman says her 2 children, her husband, and her sister died a few days ago from lack of food and water. She knows the water is bad, but she says she has no choice.
Well, I sure hope we can give them clean water by first thing tomorrow morning, because it's really sad looking at them the way it is now.
The firemen in the Army work late into the evening, anxious to meet their early morning deadline, when they hope to be able to start pumping clean water. And then 3 UN trucks will finally be able to take the precious cargo, clean water, to the waiting refugees. Rahima Ellis, NBC News, Goma, Zaire.
More news from overseas tonight. A setback for Bosnia's fragile truce. Serbs said today that they would close the only road available to civilians in and out of Sarajevo. That move would cut off food to the city at a time when UN relief has been suspended now. When Nightly News continues here in a moment, student or parent? A judge says that a young Michigan woman may not be both. Also, children in danger from their own parents. How do you keep them out of harm's way? And capitalism for a new generation of Russians. It's not exactly child's play.
I can't get anything that works better than Mycotin for my athlete's foot. But this great targeted spray gets more Mycotin into the places I need it most. Only Mycotin's got the targeted spray for a cure that gets in.
What would happen if you took the relief of a liquid antacid and put it into a form you've never seen before? You'd get new Mylanta Soothing Lozenges. Liquid relief now in a lozenge. New Mylanta Soothing Lozenges. My doctor said Mylanta.
Smells good. Raid Ann & Roach has a country fresh scent, so it's easier on you. Tough as ever on roaches.
I know. Who sent flowers?
Country Fresh Raid kills bugs dead.
This summer, get away from it all. In the Seville SLS with the North Star system. A single upfront payment of $12,732 saves you $1,744. Reserve your own private world. The Cadillac Seville SLS. Before summer breezes by, see your Cadillac dealer.
This month, we're creating the ultimate.
Red Lobster's Ultimate Feast. Luscious lobster with scampi, butterflied shrimp, and snow crab. All on one plate. The Ultimate Feast.
But only during July at Red Lobster.
Conrad.
Room 801. Once they were in love with butter. But cholesterol closed the door on their dreams until...
William.
May I serve you?
I can't believe it's not butter.
I Can't Believe It's Not Butter is the first spread flavored with real sweet cream buttermilk for a fresh butter taste, but without the cholesterol.
Now nothing can disturb our love.
I Can't Believe It's Not Butter, the taste you love without the cholesterol.
In Washington, this was the first day of congressional hearings on Whitewater. That was the Clintons' Arkansas real estate investment backed by a failed savings and loan. The hearing today was heavy on partisan squabbling, Republicans crying abuse of power, Democrats saying it was all much ado about nothing. Here's NBC's Lisa Myers.
After today, no one can accuse Democrats on the House Banking Committee of being hard-nosed investigators.
On the so-called Whitewater affair.
The chairman made it clear he saw nothing to investigate. White House counsel Lloyd Cutler did admit, however, that mistakes were made in the White House involving contacts with Treasury officials investigating a failed Arkansas savings and loan.
I found that there were too many people having too many discussions about too many sensitive matters. I believe we did not meet as high a performance standard as we should have set for ourselves.
Cutler specifically mentioned a meeting between his predecessor Bernard Nussbaum and Deputy Treasury Secretary Roger Altman, in which Altman was urged not to withdraw from the SNL case involving the Clintons.
This discussion should not have taken place.
Altman also was in hot water because of discrepancies between what he told a Senate committee in February and facts which later became known. Amid calls for Altman's resignation, Cutler offered a lukewarm endorsement.
He has been a very effective Deputy Secretary of the Treasury, and I personally hope he continues in that job.
Documents released today also contradict Treasury Secretary Lloyd Benson's claim that he was unaware of early contacts between his department and the White House. Republican Jim Leach predicted several surprises at these hearings. He said the issue is ethics.
Whitewater is about the arrogance of power. It is a metaphor for privilege.
Republicans and Democrats agree that at a minimum, these hearings are likely to embarrass some people very close to the president and further damage his administration's already tattered credibility. Lisa Myers, NBC News, the Capitol.
To Michigan now, and a child custody decision that has shocked a great many people. At issue here, whether a single mother should lose custody of her child because the mother is going to college. NBC's John Fratangelo has this story.
19-year-old Jennifer Ireland is a full-time scholarship student at the University of Michigan. During classes, she leaves her 3-year-old daughter Miranda in daycare. But a judge says there's no way Ireland can be both a good parent and student, and has ordered Ireland to give up her child.
I've worked so hard and so long to get here, and now it's being held against me. And I always thought going to the University of Michigan would be a benefit, not a fallback. It blows my mind.
The child's father, Steve Smith, was awarded custody because, according to the judge, Smith won't place the child in the care of strangers. Smith lives with his parents, who plan to care for Miranda while he works and goes to school part-time.
She isn't losing her daughter because she's bettering her education. She's losing her daughter because she can't provide stability.
Smith never married Ireland, who became pregnant in high school. Child welfare advocates are troubled by the decision and worry it could penalize single parents who work or attend school.
It sends out a message to mothers who rely on child daycare that they may be in jeopardy of losing custody of their children because they use child daycare.
Judge Raymond Casson defended his decision and said it's not meant to be critical of the daycare system. Jennifer Ireland plans to appeal the decision, claiming it's a case of gender bias. During yesterday's emotional hearing, she raced out of the courtroom in tears when an opposing lawyer argued against her keeping the child during the appeal. The case has drawn protests from the National Organization for Women and bewilderment from others that the pursuit of an education could strip a parent of a child. Dawn Fratangelo, NBC News, reporting.
In other news tonight, wildfires still are a big problem in the American West. 14 major fires now burning in 7 states. That's including a fast-moving brush fire in Washington state. Overall, there are more than 6,000 firefighters battling these blazes. And in Simi Valley, California today, an explosion at Rockwell International's Rocketdyne plant, which makes rocket engines for NASA. 2 people were killed, another severely burned. The cause of the accident still is under investigation. In business news tonight, Boeing's second quarter profits, well, they sound like good news, $222 million, but that's less than half of the first quarter earnings. Boeing, which is the world's largest aerospace manufacturer, says that sales of commercial aircraft were off. Boeing was off almost a point today on Wall Street. The Dow itself was down just over 6. Trading today was light for the second day in a row. When we come back here in a moment, children at risk, the danger, their parents.
Why aren't you at college? Something wrong?
No, I decided to come and see you.
Michael, this is my son, Jeremy.
My mother has mentioned you.
Has she? Well, we share a real passion for certain coffee.
Yeah, taster's choice.
Savor the...
We've got the big fat raisins.
It's got
new Kellogg's Nutri-Grain cereal.
How can something non-alcoholic taste this good, huh?
Funny you should ask, Jim. Unlike some other NAs, Old Milwaukee starts with fully fermented beer and uses this Centrotherm with its unique rotating evaporator system to carefully remove the alcohol.
So, full-bodied beer flavors never compromised?
Exactly, that's the beauty of the Centrotherm.
For a non-alcoholic brew that tastes like beer, it doesn't get any better than this.
Who said that?
The RF converter output of unit XLT735B is preset to VHF channel 3 prior to shipment. Wait. The RF converter output of unit XLT735B is preset to VHF channel 3 prior to shipment. The RF converter output of unit XLT735B is preset to VHF channel 3 prior to shipment.
Any questions? Radio Shack has over 25,000 people with simple answers to complicated questions. Radio Shack, you've got questions, we've got answers.
Day 4 of the show. The magician is performing for the kids. I thought the dancers stole the show last night. I put on quite a show in aerobics this morning. I can see why Royal Caribbean has won so many awards. I can see it in John, our cabin steward, and Ted, our wine steward. Watching people with this much pride is quite a show in itself.
You've got some Royal Caribbean coming.
America Close Up tonight, keeping children out of harm's way. We begin a special series tonight. The stress of being a parent can be overwhelming at times, and that can turn kids into targets of rage. One solution, safe havens for children, giving parents a break before they do something they might regret. Here's NBC's Sarah James.
Need another paper, Dad?
It's 6 a.m. and Ruben and Jason Pashon are delivering the Sunday paper in Fairfield County, Connecticut.
Jason, pass me another one.
They're a good team now, but on this